that problem last. Right, okay, cool. Right, that's it. That's what it is. I've sussed it. I know what to do
What is
now.
it?
I'm learning. Because when I've scheduled the stream, so because I've scheduled the stream,
Yeah, we're live.
you can preview it all before you hit live, which I've not done that before, which means you start seeing on my desktop and everything else. Right, so we're on now. That's all good.
Right,
all good. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another live stream. We've got a special guest in the house, Ringway Manchester, who has just surpassed me in subscriber numbers. No, he hasn't. 60,000.
Yeah.
He's hit 60k subs. That's absolutely unreal, mate. Honestly, catching me up. You're catching me up.
We did speak to your agent. We spoke to your management. We spoke to your who else is the posh people that have fancy jobs. What sort of job roles do they have, or people?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty much like, you know how like big people have like people they just like, just sort that.
Oh, like an entourage.
Yeah, entourage. They've got the what's the people that like, dress you and so your fashion sense, all that sort of stuff.
What's wrong with my fashion sense? What's wrong with my fashion sense?
That is a 90s look, and that is timeless.
It's good. That is good. Love it. I love the rabbit. I love the backdrop with the MJ stuff he's got in the back there. The keyboard. Yeah.
Let's talk about you now.
Let's talk about me. The reason why I was late to this stream is because I was talking on the 305 on CB.
Was Fred in the shed on?
No, he wasn't actually. I haven't heard him lately. So I've just stuck this T2LT antenna up on my mast outside, and I was shouting, and as I was talking, I could hear something interfering in here. Something was flashing, like something was just doing something because I was on sideband. So it was kind of going, and I'm going CQ, 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 looking around to work out what the noise was, and someone come back and was like, "That is a lot of CQ calls." So yeah, but it seems to be getting out.
Asked, Andy, somebody's asked you there. Any advice on anyone who is horrendously mic shy?
Become a DJ.
What for going on radio? Yeah, that's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I believe it or not, I have trouble sometimes. Sometimes I can't bring myself to just. I'm like, I can't do it. I just listen.
I'm exactly the same. I think just throwing yourself in at the deep end. You soon get into the swing of it, or maybe if you talk to like a friend and just get the sort of conversation.
Do you know what I hate as well is like the pressure of nets sometimes, like where it's like, you know, you've got to say your call sign, then you've got to remember who it goes around to the next one, and if you're in a group where they're like, you know, they know what they're doing and they've got this dialed and they're been doing it for a long time, you just feel really kind of like, oh good.
Charles, you've got all this to come when you get your radio license.
You see, I never get this. Like, I've stood in front of like I think 2,000 people before.
I can do that
on the mic. Yeah,
I've done that before, but it's weird.
I've spoken with like work in the past. I've spoken to hundreds of people in big rooms, and it doesn't really bother me. I suppose it depends on how shy you are as a person, but for radio mic shyness, I think either finding a friend who you can sort of practice with, or just throwing yourself in at the deep end. And it's a tough one.
When you used to do your foundation test, I don't think this happens anymore because it's online, isn't it? But you used to have to do like a call, like a CQ call, and someone would be sitting like in the car park on like a, on a radio and be like, "Yeah, I can hear you."
Terry would be sitting in his like Ford Angler round the corner. Should we get on to the pre-arranged subjects?
Yeah, go for it.
We are talking about a big one, which is, I think he's known to us as Daddy Elon now, isn't he? Let's be honest, because he is bringing us good stuff. You know, I think all three of us would like a Tesla.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I decided not to get one. I had one on pre-order at one point.
Really? What did you have on pre-order?
Model 3.
Model 3. See, I would absolutely love a Cybertruck.
Oh yeah, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's just got bits and pieces you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they are. They are. Yeah. I don't know. It's just for me at the moment. It's just got to have, you know, got to have an engine. No, that's a lie. I do like EVs, but there's nothing really that I would go for over what I've got. If you see what I mean. Anyway, what were you going to talk about? Starlink,
Starlink. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware or not. It'd be interesting to find out if anyone's watching on
using Starlink.
Yeah, so Starlink is a system that is being set up by Elon Musk. He's using low orbit, so it's not going as high in the sky. Like people think orbit, they think of the International Space Station. You're very, very far away from the International Space Station.
Yeah.
So Starlink, I think Elon wants to change. So instead of laying fiber optic cables everywhere at great expense, and getting out to places like the top of Scotland, for instance. How expensive is that to get fiber optic in the ground?
Yeah.
Instead of that, he's using a little satellite that follows I don't know if you know, the dish actually tilts along the sky. I don't know if you've looked at it.
Is it actually so? It actually tracks.
Yeah.
Does it?
So it normally does have three.
But
I think it's 3 satellites.
It doesn't track it mechanically though, does it? It tracks it using a phased array, I think. So that it can literally. If you look at like the circuit of the actual thing, it's amazing. It's an amazingly engineered bit of kit, but yeah, I don't know what how it works. No, not tried it.
So what are your opinions both on Starlink as well? Like, do you think it could be a viable system? Do you reckon it could be like you get it and you'd be disappointed?
I don't know. They're offering at the moment they're boasting like up to sort of 200 megabytes per second speed, aren't they? Which is, that is if you're in an area that doesn't receive great internet coverage, or you're in a sort of third world, that is pretty good.
I've got it up here. I will share with the group and everyone watching.
The only thing I saw was the fact that it had quite a low upload rate.
That's pretty much
75 megs, isn't it?
Which is not
pretty much.
It's okay, but it's not going to be great for us YouTube. I mean, I've used like 200 up, and it's insane how fast that upload bar goes on YouTube when you stick a video. It just goes. It's nuts.
A problem with like every home connection in the UK, because I only get about. I know I'm going to start getting. You're going to get the small violin out. I only get about 30 up, but then I get 420 down.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what my speeds are. The upload is like you, Andy. It's really fast. So, someone's put in the comments there. Steve G0LQP has put. Where is it? Starlink will have issues, I think, with solar activity.
I think for that it's too low. You're not in. You might be talking about solar flares as well.
Yeah, solar flares. I would have thought.
Yeah. I'm not
Hi, Steve, as well. Steve's down the road from me. I talk to him quite a lot on the local repeater.
Where is he?
Shout out to you, Steve. Welling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve, fellow Hertfordshire person here. I work in Welling, so. So they are offering it with. It isn't cheap by any stretch of the imagination. So you're paying for your hardware, which is £460,
Wow.
and then it's £75 a month. Which that is sort of Virgin Media,
in the
sort
ballpark,
of TV.
yeah, Virgin.
TV, you get your phone and you get your internet connection, sort of. But I think what Starlink has got one massive advantage is you can take it anywhere you want.
Yeah.
That is quite useful. Even Ukraine, because it got. Didn't he try to? He offered first of all to give it to Ukraine to sort out their problems because their infrastructure has been so badly damaged. But then backed out because it kind of all kicked off, and they said, "Oh, the military are going to use it," so they didn't want to involve.
It does look like, if you can see the screen, they have got coverage, but they're missing quite a bit of Russia. They're missing Russia a lot.
Yeah, well, this is the problem because the Chinese already don't want that over their airspace. They've said, I mean, there's lots of things there where potentially it's going to cause a problem. It's like. Starlink could.
How can they stop it? Because they're not geostationary, are they?
Nah, just passing over. They don't like it, do they? I mean, these countries, they just don't like, something that is not in their control to be cruising past.
I think their worry as well is space junk. You know how big it is. It's not seen as a big problem, but I believe it quite is.
I think one of them nearly hit. One of the satellites nearly hit the Russian space station. I don't know if that's the Russian one or the Chinese one. Was it?
I wouldn't be surprised because they're very they're only like shoebox size, these satellites.
Yeah.
It's basically what amateurs. Go on. What were you saying?
I was going to say, how many's up there? There's a few hundred, isn't there?
He wants to launch like thousands.
Yeah.
You could see at one point when they first started launching them, you could see them on a clear night in a really dark area. You could see one and then another one behind it. Do you remember that?
We see them quite. Well, we see them quite often when we're in Portugal in June. Where we go, it's in the middle of nowhere, so that the sky, it's an amazing night sky, and you can just see them all night. Some of them are closer, and then you'll see like another one coming from another direction, and there's sort of maybe one every 20 seconds. They're quite amazing to see.
It is so cool. It is really cool. I looked at somebody has worked out how to. Well, somebody has basically got one of these and like routed it, like you can do with like the old Android phones. Like they've kind of routed it and got sort of like serial access to it, so they can kind of just showing as a proof of concept. Look, we can hack this if we want to, which is kind of weird, which is kind of mad to think that you could start up your own little communications thing. I'm sure it'd get shut down pretty quickly, wouldn't it? But imagine that, pirates on that'd be a great subject for a video.
Yeah, what Andy's saying is he's already started the footwork doing this.
He's got his missile outside.
Yeah.
And to track it.
Someone I know has been messing around.
Yeah.
I'm going to hear the rocket launch like when the RPG goes off.
Yeah. Steve has put he's put them in low Earth orbit, but they'll still be affected much like GPS.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. I mean, everything gets affected. People start wondering why their digital TVs and stuff go a bit weird, like during tropospheric ducting and stuff like that, don't they? Sporadic E's.
If someone told you about Starlink in the mid-90s, you'd just think it's like something out of science fiction, wouldn't you? It's like crazy. But when you see the launch of them all coming out and then they slowly drift apart, it's like...
Yeah. He's making that stuff of dream. Like I feel like he's just kind of like a kid in a sweet shop with just like infinite resources of money to just basically just do all the things that he dreamed about. Which, fair play to him. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna start poking you both because you're both YouTubers. I'm not. How comes either of you haven't done a video on it?
It's probably.
The list of videos I'm working on is ridiculous. So it's something I may look at someday. But I mean, for me personally, I try and do stuff that nobody else is doing. So it's a bit.
That's the thing. If you do sort of Starlink, you've got Linus Tech Tips. He's doing stuff where they're they get all that stuff sent to them, and they're getting like tens of thousands of pounds worth of stuff, and they can just do tests with this. All of it, all of that tech. How can you can't compete with that, can you? It's so hard. And everybody's jumping on that same thing, aren't they? Like if I did a Starlink video, it would probably just bomb like the rest of my videos.
I can't say that.
Yeah, well, you said that, not the we did. So, do you both reckon it's the future instead of laying these expensive glass fibres everywhere?
Well,
Go on, Andy.
Go on, I was going to say, what have you got? What have you got? What have you got as an alternative? I mean, you got 5G. That's going to be the reality, isn't it? And
we've said this is fast as well. We've proved this is fast, or I've proved it's fast to you.
I think fibre has got a long time left in it, and I think microwave is still massive for mobile phone companies. It's huge. You look at any tall building, you'll see microwaves on there, and the majority of them are for cellular services. And I think, is it by 2026 to 30, which is not even a long time now, 6G is going to be rolled out, and China are already dipping the toe in the thing of 6G. So Yeah,
It's
I think
crazy,
Starlink
isn't it?
Starlink will have its application, but I think terrestrial stuff at the moment, I think there's still plenty to go at for a long time yet.
I want to come up with a conclusion for this. Now, I suspect, the big data centers out there, you've got Google, you've got Facebook doing their own data centers. You've got a big player, top of my head, OVH. I think
OVH,
everyone
yeah.
knows. Yeah, they're a big player. Now, I reckon they will have their fiber cables going to their servers for sort of the next 100 years, right?
Yeah.
But then your consumers will want wireless. So your consumer will have the satellite dish on their chimney or wherever they can put it on their house.
Wireless has always been there. Wireless was there before, they managed to sort of literally stick cables underground and stuff like that. But the speeds we're getting on wireless is bonkers. I mean, it is literally crazy, and they're coming up with new ways to, like, obviously send data over the air. Like, you're getting even consumer grade stuff like the drones. You're getting 50 megabits data transfer from one point to another point. On five gig.
Isn't it?
Yeah, on 5 gig, and that's like with no cell tower in the middle. That's direct from the drone to the goggles. Yeah.
Sorry, somebody in the comments said Lewis has got his Rampant Rabbit t-shirt.
Yeah. Did notice this. Shall we? So, last question for Starlink, and we'll move on to the next subject. What do you think will come of it? Do you reckon it will be used? Do you reckon Elon will get his 1 gigabit up down?
I think there will be there could be a mass uptake of it. He has got a way of kind of putting it, pricing stuff pretty right. I mean, Tesla's expensive, but in the comparative EV market, like, it's not really.
I have been poking my dad about the solar roof as well.
Even for Tesla, I mean, you see so many of them around because people aren't spending 300, 400, 500 quid a month on fuel.
But that's changing now, though, because the fuel is like the electric prices.
I was talking to a friend about this. He's still spending peanuts when he charges from home, but he went to Cornwall the other week in his partner's car, and it's got a lot less range on it. And he said for the fast charging terminals at service stations, he said some of them are more expensive than like petrol and diesel.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think for home charging, it's still a lot cheaper. But like you say, if you're away from home, or you're traveling, or you're commuting, or you see a lot of businessmen and that driving these Model S's up and down the motorway, they're going to be using these service station chargers. So
they don't get as much. I don't know if you knew this or not, but how about the whole 45p rule when you drive your personal car for work?
Oh, well, 45p a mile.
Yeah, they only get 22p if you're an electric car.
How much do we get?
Isn't it?
Lewis, how much do we get per mile? How much do we pay ourselves for a mile?
I'm just keeping an eye on the comments.
Yeah, it's good to do that, actually, because I've got them on my phone this week. I've not got them on my screen.
I'll tell you what, you two keep an eye on that. I'm going to keep an eye on the Discord comments if there is any.
Yeah, I feel like the Discord, we're starting to obviously get a bit more traction on there. It's picking up a little bit.
While we're talking about sort of electric things and the sort of bits and pieces like that, it comes very, very good onto the cold shoulder. So the cold shoulder is my subject. These two know nothing about it. They do because they could probably talk forever about this. We are talking about why is it so important to have a decent power source for a radio?
You can start.
First thoughts, guys?
George, you want me to give my 2 cents?
Go on, Andy.
A decent power source. I mean, the power source is everything to a radio setup. If you're talking about that, I mean, you need to have a very clean power supply. Otherwise, you're just going to introduce noise into the receiver. I run a lot of my radios off of batteries, actually, for that reason alone, just to take out any possible source of noise.
So we have been. So, Lewis, do you want to add to that at all?
I suppose if Andy's covering sort of the portable, I've got my power supply here as a thing you can turn on it to. So if you're introducing QRM into the radio, you can tweak it. I think for portable use, I think if you can deliver the power you need to deliver, it's obviously going to help as much as it can with the range. If you go out with if you using batteries with not enough power,
that's a problem. Yeah, because the problem you get is a lot of the radios run on, they've got a fairly wide voltage range, like 12. They probably go down to like 10 volts, up to like 15, something like that, to cover the average car power supply, kind of, what you're getting from a car battery with an alternator where the engine's running, that sort of thing. But when you get to the lower end of that, obviously things just start getting sketchy, especially on sideband. You end up with like lots of, it just doesn't modulate properly, or it just doesn't, work well at all. So yeah, you've got, and the problem is batteries these days trying to get the voltage right, to run, because if you put 3 lithium cells together, then it's like fully charged at 12.6 and it will discharge to 9 volts. So that's not really ideal. And if you do 4 lithium polymers or 4 lithium ion cells together, that becomes 16.8 when it's fully charged. So then you end up with like, it's too high for the radio. So trying to find a modern battery sort of system is difficult, and you've got to regulate. And if you regulate, then you could introduce noise because you've got, a circuit in there. So it's trying to keep things simple. I charge the way I do it on my batteries is I've got a 4 cell, and I just connect it to my power supply, and it charges up to 15 volts, and then you just leave it, and it's got a BMS on there so it don't like blow up, but basically like it will hit 15 volts and it maxes on the power supply, and you just take it off the power supply, and then you can just use it on radios. That's how I do it.
Andy, sorry, just to backtrack a sec. Someone in the comments said, "How do electric cars work in cold countries with snow? Does the cold weather affect the batteries and range?"
It does, but you have a thing called preheat on a lot of electric cars. So in Norway, where it's really cold, if you look at like the car parks, what they have is they actually a lot of them have mains power supplies next to the car slots, and this has been going on years, even before even before we had like electric cars. And what those are there for is to plug in electric heaters that are built into the cars to stop the engines from freezing. So it kind of heats up, preheats. So they're used to preheating. They've been used to preheating for a long time. So same thing.
When you just heat the battery coolant.
Yeah, I think
they have
some
coolant system, don't they?
Yeah, that's how that is. I think that's how they do it, Charles. I think they just sort of.
Do you know how we're going off on a tangent here, but do you know how the aircon works in a Tesla? It takes it straight from the high current. Takes it straight from the high current. So you've got like, I don't know, it's like 100. You've got 100 kilowatts there, haven't you? Pretty much. So you can heat the car up.
Will fry you if you.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to sort of radio power supplies. So in the IT world, what you do is you get one of these
big server
bad boys.
UPS.
It does work as well. And that's more than enough clean power. You're protected for your power cuts. You're covered for your generator turning on.
I've never tried using one of those on a radio. I mean, it's pretty pointless going. It's pretty pointless going from 12 volts going to 240 and then put it in a power supply and then going back down again. It'd be better using the actual battery in there, which is probably 12 volts itself. But I wonder how noisy they are for radio, because radio stuff's like super sensitive to noise. You can't just put it in a power supply.
You can borrow this, Andy. You did want to borrow it, didn't you?
Try it.
We'll
test it out.
That's heavy.
Charles, are those sort of becoming obsolete now? Because from places I've worked, every time they've failed, they've never bothered even to replace them. They just come in, take them out, and.
So I'm guessing that's sort of like the cloud sort of changeover. So on-prem, your servers, you're hosting your own servers. That's becoming a thing of the past with stuff like Office 365. So I'm guessing that's why they're becoming obsolete.
Interesting.
So we've just got 2 more questions here. Why you did touch on it before? Why are car power unstable for radio? So if you were sitting in your
I mean, you do get a lot of noise introduced from the circuits in the car, and a lot of car supplies now are actually not direct to the battery. They're actually like USB, high power USB. So they'll take the 12 volts, then they'll take a high power from somewhere, and then they'll drop it down for a regulator. So you can't pull more power than you need. In the old days, you'd have a cigarette lighter in there, and you could just literally, I mean, that would handle like 15, 20 amps, and you just plug that in. And the wires going from the back of those sockets straight were like that, proper gauge wire. And you could even charge the car battery through that. Then they started having it going through the ignition and all that.
My car radio is wired. It's wired to the chassis and then wired to the fuse box.
Yeah, so you ground into the chassis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you do that yourself, or did you get someone to do it?
I did it myself. Yeah.
You know why they do that, don't you?
Why?
You ground to the chassis, so you save so much cable.
Right.
You just ground the chassis to the battery.
Yeah.
And then all your grounds, you just go to a bit unpainted bit of metal.
Right.
Interesting.
It saves you running that bit of cable back.
Right.
Obviously, you could run I spoke to a bloke who had a big, massive sound system, and he was like, "Yeah, I just grounded it into the chassis." And I was like, "What amps are you running?" He was running 500 amps in this whole. He reckoned that's what the amps would pull if you do a sine wave. But he had his wire, Andy, was 4 times thicker than 0 gauge.
Cheapers.
So
That's
pretty much
mad.
Pretty much the size of my puny arm.
Yeah, it's the car is a really interesting thing with radio, because you ever realise how well mobile radio works so blooming well. If you get a HF radio and you just stick an antenna on, it works so much better than if you would just put that antenna on a similar amount of area of metal in your garden. It just doesn't work. And it's because obviously that you've got that area of metal, but it's something to do with how it's coupled to the ground of the floor as well through the tyres. Is sort of a capacitive coupling between the car and the ground, which makes it a real earth. It's really interesting. I was reading some stuff about this.
When you listen to mobile stations, you can always tell who's driving an older car, because in newer cars you hear nothing. In older cars you can hear the alternator, or you can hear the car
noise, the
noise. Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
That will happen with the electric motors in new cars.
Do you know what? I think it's terrible. I mean, the Twizy, I can't put radio in the Twizy. I know it's basic, but you can't put a radio in there because you just get full scale noise.
It's not made of metal either. It's all plastic, isn't it? The plastic and fiberglass.
If you buy a Tesla, you're not going to be driving around with a mag mount on the roof and a bloody radio in the.
Yeah, I've done.
I would. You see the looks I've got on my TT with a 2 metre whip on the top of it.
Yeah, I've got an Insignia, and I didn't put radio in that for ages, but now I've got a mag mount. But my mag mount's really badly placed. It's on the back left corner. It should really be in the middle for the best.
Still works. It will still work.
But
it's amazing. I bet it does.
Shall we move on to our next subject?
Well, they are. Matt has put old electrical systems using points and condensers cause a lot of QRM, and then Steve's put good old alternator QRM. Yeah.
One thing I do want to raise as well. Do you guys know why you have to tell a new car that it's got a new battery? BMs are really bad for this as well.
It's another way of making money out of you to go back so they reset.
Sorry, Charles, what was the question there?
Calibrate.
So you have to, these days, most modern cars, I think me and Andy would have to do it in our 2 cars. I'm not sure about the Vauxhalls. You have to tell the car, so for a new OBD port, that it's got a new battery.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, most of the electronics in new modern cars are quite sensitive to voltage sag.
Right.
So when the battery sort of disintegrates, you go down to sort of, I think it's 11 volts sort of car. You probably go
when
down
it's off of the alternator kind of thing.
Yeah, when you go to like 10 or sort of 9, you need to replace the battery. But there's electronics in the car, so the car will slowly crank up the amps to the battery to charge it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the most out of it. Yeah,
like
so
intelligent charging.
But I'm sure me and you can do that with our little OBD things, can't we? I can with mine on Beamer code.
I've never looked at that, but I have read people saying that, like with the TTs, that if you take a battery out and stick a new one in it, you need to do something because you'll get a fault code.
Yeah, well, you ruin your new expensive battery because the car's putting in more amps than it needs.
Amps. Yeah, so this is a problem with lead acid.
Yeah.
All batteries have got their downsides, and lead acids are pretty easy to charge compared to lithium.
Can you imagine putting a lipo in your car? That wouldn't go
People
really
do it to
well.
save weight, don't they?
Yeah, they do it with lithium, or you can do it with capacitors as well. Just a small capacitor bank, because you only need starting current.
You do.
I'm gonna go. So we're gonna change subject now. So it's actually a bit more Lewis's time to shine. We're going to talk about one of his. I think it's one of your biggest videos, isn't it? The Is There Anything Left to Listen to?
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you posted that about 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's about 2017, I think.
That video actually made me buy my Bofang.
Oh really?
That's what convinced me in the end. That's all seriousness.
Yeah.
He's responsible for the Bofang illegal sales.
Yeah, and I also saw your video as well. Do you remember the one where you were outside Manchester Airport with your Bofang and you were telling about people about it? Of course, you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, I recorded that. It was like a 5 minute. I was waiting. I was meeting a friend, and I just put the camera on and just recorded. Yeah, I did do an updated version of that, but yeah.
So you're using the FM relay for ground.
Yeah.
To listen to aircraft coming in and out of Manchester Airport, and of course you shouldn't do this at all. Don't do this.
Yeah. A lot of people, and I've done a few videos on this. People don't believe that radio scanning is illegal. The law is you shouldn't listen to anything that's not intended for you. Of course, it's never. I always say, of course, people say, "Oh, rubbish," but it's true. That is the law. The Wireless Telegraphy Act has never been updated. Of course, it's never enforced. It has been enforced a lot of times, but it's not really enforced.
Is it almost like they'll enforce it if it's something worth enforcing, or they'll try and get that person on something else? So they turn a blind eye to it a lot of the time.
It's been enforced a lot with people listening to the police. So what they would do is the police would be at jobs, and you'd find people would turn up randomly, and they'd look in the cars and see scanners, and they would do them then for listening to the police and having a scanner, and people would get charged, a few £100. Or what they would do, they made up a story. There's an old Royal Naval airfield that's not too far from here that's abandoned now, and they said there was a UFO sighting there and waited for people to turn up, and they confiscated the scanners and did them. Or another one, they would say that there's been a security call van that's crashed. There's money everywhere. They'd wait for people to turn up, and they'd nick them all, and they would nick them all for listening to police.
That's awesome. That's so good.
How that came about was in the, and I did do a video on this in the late 1980s. People were discovering. Sort of scanners were becoming popular. I mean, they started in the 70s, but scanners were becoming more popular. People realised they could listen to things like MOLD, which was the Army network. They could listen to the police, the Ministry of Defence, and majority of it was all unencrypted out in the open. And of course, they didn't realise this, so people were spreading these frequencies around. You'd get a little advert in the back of a radio magazine saying, "Do you want to listen to the latest in scanning? Send a stamped addressed envelope and £1.50 to this PO box, and we'll send you a list." And the government and that realised that all of a sudden the MI5 and MI6 communications around London were being listened to, and there was an article in the Telegraph in the early 90s where they went round in a car with a scanner, and they were picking up all sorts of stuff, and so a lot of people were involved in being done around that, but it's not
really
enforced nowadays,
that.
because anything that's sort of government and secret related is all encrypted and sort of not over the radio.
It's almost hard to believe that the police, were just out there on like but just the channels were just open right up until 2005 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so books came out like this. This came out, and it says somewhere in it that the government actually wants this banned. So this is 1991, and there's 7,000 frequencies in this, and
So mad.
you've got everything to do with the RAF. You've got mold. You've got all the police with the call signs, and just one interesting point in this. There's a listing up in UHF. I think it's in UHF, maybe VHF, and it's called Rimington minicabs. Now, does the name Rimington ring a bell?
Ringing. It does, but it's not very appropriate.
So the director of MI5 in the 1990s was Stella Rimington.
Okay.
So the cars that they would use around London were on a specific repeater, and it was referred to in these books as Rimington minicabs. So anyone reading through it and going through it, it didn't say, Ministry Defence cars.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And anyone in the know would realise that Rimington minicabs is Stella Rimington, MI5 related, and it was the repeater that the cars used to use going around London.
That's mad. But they gave enough information just to tease people.
And it was probably to stop them from being prosecuted, because they could say, we heard a minicab on there called Rimington minicabs, and no one can dispute it.
That book is a year older than I am, by the way.
It was a year old. It's a year older than you are.
Yeah.
See, it's mad. It is mad though that obviously there's all this stuff. Back then, nothing was digital. Everything's going on from spectrum wide. You've got mobile phones, cordless phones, mobile phones, police. The stuff that you could listen to was just out of control. Like you could just hours. I spent hours. No, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't listen to any of it or record any of it.
Savvy enough, which I am working on a video, and if you were tech savvy enough, you could also watch the downlink from the police helicopter. It was analog out in the open as well.
Wow.
And I've got the gear. I've got the gear that was used to do that, and there's a video in the works on that as well.
There is one thing I'm going to say as well. The Americans still haven't gone into encryption. Like
no, that scanner. I mean,
they are now.
Oh,
they are now.
If you watch, Josh's video, where he was was it ham radio? What's he called? I always forget the name of his channel.
What's he called?
Josh. Ham. What's it? Oh god, I can't think. Ham radio. Crash Course. YouTuber. Ham radio Crash Course. He had a he's got like a Bearcat scanner. Obviously, you get a Bearcat Uniden Bearcat here, doesn't do anything because it doesn't pick up anything. But over there, it's like trunked and it trunk tracks and everything. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's always been a thing, isn't it? But I think they're using P25, aren't they? Like the digital.
They use DMR and P25, but more and more police services are going digital by the day now. There'll be nothing left in a couple of years. Nothing left. 3 or 4 years ago, there was the majority of us out there, and 10 years ago it was all analog. But yeah, a lot of them are going digital now.
I remember
this Motorola R7, when this came, out the box, it had encryption turned on. So like you had to actually just disable, or it's got encryption keys. So DMR, I think by default now, is rolling out with encryption kind of enabled, albeit whatever the basic encryption is. But yeah, there's a load of DMR stuff around here, but you can't decode anything of it.
This is the problem, and the reason is, and I've spoke about this so many times, is because people go on Facebook and websites and they just share everything, color code slots,
color codes,
and anyone reading it can see that their company's out in the open, and they just contact the supplier and say, right, we want to go encrypted, and it's literally you just reprogram the radios, check a button.
Yeah, exactly. Done. A lot of that can be done over the air as well now. They're just logged into Wi-Fi.
Yeah. It's just killing the hobby.
I mean, they should. We need to have a word with them. They shouldn't kill the hobby. It's out of order, isn't it?
Getting back to your video, encryption is going to be in the next video. That was going to be a subject. Okay. I couldn't squeeze it in here. But getting back to the video, has anything really changed in the last 4 years?
The main thing, the people that say there's nothing left to listen to on a radio scanner are the people that want to listen to the police.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to listen to still.
Yeah, if you go off that mindset, radio scanning's been dead since 2005 when the rollout of Tetra Airwave happened. But there's still loads to listen to. You know, it just depends what you want to listen to. There's a lot of surveillance that's out in the open. I heard some the other week. You know, the Department of Work and Pension surveillance, and you have like private companies doing surveillance. That's about the juiciest bit.
Have you ever heard any crane drivers
That's
on
cool.
Channel 5 at all?
I was going to say,
yeah,
if you get a PMR 446 radio, and just obviously just turn it off, turn all the tones off. If you've got a normal bar thing, you can just flick on to 446. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
Like
well,
there's loads of stuff. People are like using them like phones as well. Like it's like full blown conversations going on. People like not realizing that it's not secure and saying, oh yeah, I've sent it down to I'm sending like details of banks and it's not good.
by the way, my I need to send you my tax return as well.
I do it over packet radio. I'm only accepting packet radio requests now. What were
fine,
you going to
that's
say, Lewis,
fine.
about 446? Because you're a bit of an advocate for.
I can't think now. Yeah, there's still loads of stuff to listen to. Just none of it's very exciting anymore. But another thing I wanna do a video on is there's radio beacons on the cranes that are anti-collision.
Right.
You can hear those as well in UHF.
There's a system. Is that
Is
part
it
of airplanes?
What's it? The system is it the same one that the drones use now? That to
I'm not sure.
notify
It's
that something's there.
I
the
think
last I read, it was just in UHF. They're just anti-collision. I don't know how it works.
I think there's a system that stops air-to-air accidents. I can't think of what it's called, but it actually tells the pilot what action he needs to take.
Is it close call or something?
It'll tell one plane. It's so clever. It'll tell one plane to sort of go up and one plane to go down.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, really.
My last question on that is: do you still stand by that video? Would you still send that video to someone?
The idea behind that video was more to show what is where, because a lot of people getting into radio, the spectrum is a big place. I wanted to sort of do within VHF and UHF, this is where everything is. Everything has its own, everything has its own little area. But yeah, there's stuff to listen to. I was scanning around a couple of weeks ago, and I heard the surveillance on 173 megs. I heard some hang gliders on 143 megs. There was an incident, because I'm not that far from the coast here, believe it or not, in Manchester. There was an incident off the coast of Liverpool involving the Coast Guard. You can sometimes hear the radio intercom systems in the rescue helicopters over the peaks. We have mountain rescue because we're obviously just near the Pennines and the peak districts and stuff. So there's mountain rescue. So yeah, there's plenty to listen to if you're just prepared to, if you know the spectrum and get everything programmed in. But unfortunately, everybody wants everything doing for them. I see on the group, does anybody have any frequencies for Manchester?
Yeah.
Well, how do you think everyone got them? Go and listen. Go and find out. And like I say, it really annoys me when people put, does anyone have the shop watch for Manchester, the frequency? And people share it, and it just goes encrypted. So much has gone encrypted now, and it will never come back. And
that is
it's just destroying the hobby. And then you'll get people who'll say, "Yeah, here you go," and they'll just put list after list, color code, slots, frequencies, names, and it's just
it is a problem,
really,
isn't it?
really bad. Yeah,
I mean,
go and the people like me had a scanner, with thousands of DMR frequencies which had been identified and stuff, and that has been done through hard work. So go out and look, listen. People want it doing for them.
This is always the thing, isn't it? I think with radio, it's like there's so many variables to it. Like it might work, it might not. Like you try different things. I think it's one of those hobbies that you could kind of dip your toe in and you might not hear anything. I said this about CB. It's like people sort of think, oh, we're just going to get a CB and there's going to be loads of people talking on there. It's going to be amazing, and it's just everything's going to click into place. It don't work like that. You got to work for it. It's really hard.
I was on that mindset until you gave me that president.
Yeah,
somebody's sorry to interrupt. Ben from Radiosification, really nice guy. He said that the aircraft thing is called TCAS,
PCAS,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
Ben's stuff as well.
yeah, yeah.
He's got a good
Ben's,
website, hasn't he? He's got a really good website.
yeah, yeah. What he doesn't know about DMR probably isn't worth knowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, isn't it?
So
How these people pop up and you don't necessarily sort of speak to them, but you know them and all that from there. The radio community is quite small, really, but it's everybody just
Yeah.
really. I love
I was
it.
saying this to someone the other day. Everyone seems to know everyone. Like through a video I'll get talking to someone maybe from Ofcom or who used to work for the DTI, and then they'll know somebody who knows that person who knows that person, and people involved in pirate radio. Everybody knows each other. It's such a small community.
It is. It really is.
Keeping with the radio thing, we're going to talk about these things now. Car keys.
What has he got?
Car keys.
Oh, car key fobs.
So, as you both know, and I think quite a few people know, there's been a lot of talk about these recently because of the relay thefts. There's a lot of the OEMs are trying to jump and stop it. So I personally think it's probably the biggest sort of use of wireless tech. I don't know if you two can think of any others.
It's got to be up there. I think it's something like 80% of cars use it. It's quite interesting how it works as well. The sort of back and forth between the car.
Yeah.
I can
So
explain it if you want.
Yeah, do that actually. That'd be useful if people didn't know. It's like a rolling thing, isn't it?
So when you press the button on the fob, it wakes up. This is in the majority of cars. It wakes up the CPU, and the CPU then sends a signal back to the fob, and then that digital signal it sends commands, and then for like security reason, it sends rolling codes as well, and the sort of the keyless system in the car. That receives the signal and then sends it. It then extracts the data in the signal and then sends it back to the CPU, and then the CPU then decodes that and sends a message over to the command module, which then opens up the car. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a sort of handshaking thing, isn't it, between the two?
Yeah, so
and then
the fob wakes up the CPU. The CPU says and then you've got the receiver, which then works with the CPU, and then the CPU then controls the command module. And
because I think
that's how it works. For the majority
because you can basically sometimes you can get a key fob out of sync with the car. If you hit it like 250 times or something, it will go out of sync with the car, and then you'd have to get a recode. I've heard that happening before. Some cars, I don't know, but it's like, if a kid gets hold of like a key fob and just starts going da 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 da, like, and the car's not in range, it could get out of sync because the rolling codes, and that's how they do the intercepts, isn't it? With like HackRF, like they kind of listen for the code, or like intercept the code, block the car from receiving the code, so the car never moves on to the next code. If you see what I mean. It's clever.
And you've got like they're on 433 megs in the UK, and then I think it's like 315 in the US and Japan. But there's also some in like I think it's 868 megs as well.
It's another ISM, isn't it?
If you look on an SDR, you just see millions of signals.
Oh, it's mad! Off. Like if I could show this in camera view now, if you put it 4.3, what is it, 30 or I can't remember what it is. Is it 4.33?
Yeah, fourth. I won't say the frequency on it.
I won't show it. But
I'll tell you an interesting story. Actually, I was playing radio once at a place called Hall Moss, which is like a transmitting station. There's a big car park there which overlooks all of Yorkshire, and it's quite a popular spot for bikers and stuff pulling up. And I was on 70 centimeter simplex talking to someone.
It's going like that. Like, sorry to interrupt. Like it's just all the time.
Oh, and sorry, Andy. Sorry, you froze there. I thought it froze. I saw this guy with his bike, and he couldn't get it started, and I sort of subconsciously saw it, and he was like running it up and down the hill, trying to get it to sort of. I think he thought it needed a bit of a jump start, and I ended the QSO with the guy. and his bike started, and I'd realised that I'd been transmitting on 70 centimetres on. I was probably on 433.525, but it was close enough to jam the signal from the fob to the bike.
Did you tell him? Did you own up to it?
No, I just drove off.
Probably best.
Yeah. It's another area that's like shared. I mean, there's an ISM band, isn't there, straight in the middle of the 77's handband. So, you know, that little section, you just get a load of noise.
I did ask you this the other day. I did ask you this the other day, Andy. How does the next BMW? So you've obviously got my car. How does like the next car and like the next VIN? How does that if somehow we came together in a car park and I open my car, how comes I'm opening his car?
Yeah, because it will probably have like a network address, like a MAC address for that control link. Like it will have an identification, like a serial, and that will be sent out over the air probably, so that it will only work with that that particular car. It's like a sort of serial number.
And
I suppose.
Why? It's a question for both of yourselves. Why is the security so poor? Why is it people are, getting their 70 grand cars that like their X5 being stolen just by a little £600 device?
I mean, it's just open for the taking, isn't it? It's just not.
Surely it wouldn't cost really anything to digitally encrypt those rolling codes.
Well, it's not. They're doing a relay, so they're getting this is obviously sending out something that the car wants. And then you're putting something close to this. Like if you left this at your front door, this is where the issue is, or you leave it at your front window. So they're putting their bit of kit close to it, which is then
grabbing the code and then making a key.
Yeah. Well, no, they're not even making a key. They're just
making a fake key.
Yeah, they're putting their device close to it, so the car thinks the key's close to the car, and then they can get in and start the car and drive away.
Yeah, that's because. Go on. If you've got a keyless car. There is something in that fob that's almost like maybe beaconing, or it's like I don't think it's RFID because it's not close enough to think. But like in mine, if I haven't got my key in the car, so if I unlock it and then get in the car and I've forgotten something, go up to the thing, it will go bib, key's not in the car, key's not in the car.
But the engine doesn't go off, does it?
The engine doesn't go off, but you get a load of bleeps.
Yeah,
and I think
whatever's giving that signal, surely if you digitally encrypts it, there's still RF at play. If you digitally encrypt it,
well, you're only forwarding the signal though. You're not encryption.
They're saying don't put your keys near your letterbox because especially Range Rovers, what they do is that they can grab that. I don't know how they actually do this, but there's obviously going to be some sort of technology that. Maybe like you said, like it can wake the key up, and it can extract that particular code clone of it, and then they just replay. Is it like a replay attack? It just replays it to the car, and the car goes, the key's in the car, I can start.
The way Ford have got I was going to talk about more what IAMs can do, but Ford have literally got an accelerometer in their key, so as soon as it sits on the table for a minute, it will just go into a dormant state until it's picked up again. And that seems to resolve the problem.
There's a comment here from Keyboard. The hack requires an active key to be in range. You can't capture the signal from the fob and go back later and retransmit it. The laptop the thieves is using mimics the car. So the fob thinks it's talking to the car. Yeah. I like everything. There's a flaw in there. Someone will kind of exploit it, won't they? Have you seen the I said this last time. You know the flipper? You've seen the flipper device, Lewis, you can get. It's like they call it a flipper because it looks like a Tamagotchi thing, but it's like the most advanced pen tool thing.
It's like another sort of hack RF type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all built in like you have with that the screen.
Did you know about Andy's new job? Salesman for Flipper.
Yeah. I want one. I really want one. You can't get one. But anyway, they like do the. He's going to bring the website up. There's some particular script someone's made, and it just opens Tesla battery doors, like not the charging flaps. So there's like videos on TikTok where someone just holds the flipper up, and there's like 6 Teslas in a parking lot, and all the doors go.
Right.
It's like,
Before we move on to our last subject, Lewis, I did want to show you this. This was a little while back. This was over in Royston Tesco's. I don't know if you saw this or not, or it came on your radar.
Yeah.
Mystery continues after shoppers locked out of their cars at Royston Tesco.
yeah, I saw that article. That is 100%.
That will be somebody in the car park keying up on the frequency.
Yeah, you think so?
Do you know what's dangerous about this though? Is that if they do that, people walk away from their car and they go bip and don't look, and then the car's open.
I saw a video on YouTube probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it wasn't. I won't say who it was, and it wasn't on for long. But they were sat in the car park of like a retail park, keying up on the frequency, and it was causing havoc because people again thinking they've locked the car and walking away. It was setting alarms off. It's really you get a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, the thing is as well, if the cars aren't locking, you know, what valuables do you leave in your car?
Exactly.
I have to sometimes leave my work laptop in there. I sometimes leave my camera in there. So it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, I normally do check my doors. Like,
It
a
is
lot
a
of cars aren't affected on that frequency, but a lot are. And in that video I saw, there was a lot affected. It's chaos.
It's not good. It isn't good, you know, for the
how would
security aspect. Like any of these things, though, you've got to almost expose it for them to fix it, and then.
I think this is quite an obvious question for me, but it might be for some. What can you do to stop this being done? What would you suggest to people?
If you see someone in a car park with a antenna,
A magnet on the roof. Yeah.
This is more like the stopping your X5 or your X3 getting stolen.
I mean, put your key fob in a Faraday cage when you go to bed, and then they'll just come in the front door with a machete and ask you for it anyway.
Yeah.
The nice
You
man with
don't usually ask.
Yeah, the nice man with a machete can have my car. You know, he's more than welcome to that.
Yeah.
Leave it by the front door.
Yeah, well,
You know another thing that could potentially cause problems. With the just going back to the frequency is 70 centimeters. If you've got a large site that's using Bofengs that they've bought and not reprogrammed, and if they're in the vicinity of that frequency, or if there's a harmonic in that area, that can cause havoc with cars. So could be.
So it's quite interesting to monitor all of the frequencies that are not allowed. Like, you know, obviously there's like for different countries like GMRS, FRS, all of those frequencies. And like you say, the Bofeng, if you get a Bofeng and those frequencies are known. Those like preset frequencies, they're known, aren't they, Lewis? Like you can find a list of those online.
I've got them all in my icons. I've got GMRS, FRS, and I've got the Bofeng standard frequencies for the AAAS. And there's so much activity on there. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
There's more activity on the 888 channels than there is on 446.
Is there really?
They're all the same. They're all factory. If you buy a Bofeng 888S or the equivalent, they're all on those frequencies, and people just buy them and use them.
I wonder if Ofcom have like kind of noticed that this is a problem and just basically like, said we can't really put anything there because that is almost like taken now.
No, because there are all those channels are all allocated still.
So I
think if
they're
anyone's
allocated before.
What you've got to remember, anyone paying a license will be using a CTCSS anyway, so the chances of actual interference are quite low unless they're on the same CTCSS. And if it would be a case that someone who owns a skip yard can say, listen, my repeater is receiving interference, and I think it's at Argos down the road. They'll go into Argos and say, listen, these radios you're using, they're not licensed, they're not license free, and majority of the time the store manager will say, well, sorry, we didn't know, and the issue's put to bed. I wouldn't have thought there's many cases of harmful interference on those frequencies just because of CTCSS, but all of the channels they're all if you look in the WTR, they're all allocated to paying users.
One thing I do want to go back, just car keys, one little thing. I've done this as well. We're going to go to a fancy video.
When?
Mm.
What have you got? Yeah, it's well, it's a problem, isn't it? I mean, interference is the main. Is going to be the main driver of the complaints and investigations, isn't it? It's not just like trying to catch people out.
Did you lot not see the video?
The video's not
No.
on the stream yet.
Okay, right. I'll explain it anyway. So Jeremy Clarkson's with his Mercedes. He goes about 40 feet away from it, works fine. And he walks a bit further away, doesn't work. He puts the key to his head, pretty much like this, and then it works at a long distance.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. Can you explain what's going on there?
Is it that your body's providing a decent ground plane?
I would think so, yeah. Because normally, like, you don't. If it's a low frequency and you just sort of touch the antenna, it could actually help the signal get out.
Yeah.
But at higher frequencies tends to make no difference. So I think it is a grounding thing. It's a weird effect because that doesn't.
Yeah. I do it sometimes when Chloe's trying to get in the car, and I'm like miles away.
You do it like that. And mine goes for miles. You can like flash it from like inside a Tesco's, like you can see in the distance doing that. If you put it on your chin.
You've got too much time on your hands.
Yeah. This is true. This is probably true.
We do have one more subject, but we can hold that for next time. I don't know if you want to get questions or do we want to go to this subject? It's completely up to you guys or up to chat.
I'm all right for time.
Yeah, go for it.
So it is another Lewis subject. Sorry, Andy. We are.
Well, he's here. We might as well make use of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your money's worth.
Those agent fees, eh? Now he's got 60k.
Now he's at 60k subscribers.
It's gone. It's 4 minutes past 9, so you pay me until 10 o'clock anyway now.
So we want to talk about a lot of videos you've done recently, which is number stations.
Charles, Andy said you wanted to see number stations, so I delivered you 7 videos on them.
I take every video as a sweet serenade to myself. So my question is, would you recommend, anyone with a license, of course, and they've got an SDR and a big long line of cable, would you recommend that they start looking for these, or? You
don't need to have a license. You can look. A few people said to me, like, are you not worried about posting that sort of stuff up? But there's websites out there that give the schedules and a link to an online SDR where you can listen. And the fact that they're out there in the open, you can't decipher what they say anyway. So it really makes no difference. But yeah, I would definitely recommend somebody going and taking the time to listen, because the shortwave band is the weirdest place on earth. If you
so strange.
To listen around. If you get your head round where everything is, there's some really weird and wonderful stuff to be heard, and there are still a lot of number stations out there to listen to, and the channel markers like the buzzer and stuff.
And then even if you do know, you get your head around it, you're still going to be surprised because there's always something unexpected. Like when you said the other day,
just hear the weirdest things, and you just think, what is this?
Where is it coming from? Some little, and it's like an imagination thing, isn't it? Well, for me,
exactly.
Me and Lewis, we're always talking about it, saying you can imagine where's that signal emanating from, like something.
One question that does come up for me is how would the people in the field, like that are listening to this, how would they pick it up? I think in my head I'm seeing someone like James Bond.
Yeah, that's sort of the image I have, in like a sort of a dark room with a dull lamp, sort of Soviet looking. But for the number stations, I would think the basic principle is probably the same. You have one-time pads, and a really sort of broken down simple term is like A equals 1, B equals 2. That sort of thing is obviously a lot more complex than that. But you have one-time pads that sort of, let's say I'm the sender, you're the recipient, we'll both have the same pad. And it is truly secure and truly unbreakable, as simple as it is, because you and I are the only ones with the pad. That message can only be decoded from that pad, and back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and even in the 90s, they were concealed in shoes, they were concealed inside walnuts, soap. Some of them were written on chewing gum, which the agent would then just eat. The CIA developed a paper that when you chewed it turned into chewing gum. And sort of really going back you know, we noticed as a community, we noticed number stations really in the 60s and 70s, but they do date back to the First World War, and there's cases where agents would have the one-time pad or a message written on the head, and then the hair would grow over it.
Wow.
They get to where they're going, they shave the head, the message is there, and
That's madness, isn't it?
yeah. So, and one-time pads they can refer to the numbers can refer to page numbers, line numbers, and words in a book. So again, you've got the book, I've got the book, and the message is there. And that is I said in one of my videos, that is a really simple, broken down term. There are machines for decoding those numbers and things like that. It's a rabbit hole when you look into it, but it's so interesting. But those codes of those number stations have never been broken, never been deciphered, and I think that is why there's never been any. There's not been a lot of acknowledgement on the behalf of the intelligence agencies, because it's out there. They know it can be listened to, but it's completely unbreakable.
We've got pretty much.
Does Lewis work for Ofcom on the quiet?
We got this sort of thing. Like watching your videos, it brought me back to the film. I can't remember Alan Turing, pretty much.
Yeah,
they had Enigma, didn't they? And
That's it. That's a great film.
That was the sort of like the birth of the sort of modern computer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was behind the. I can't remember the name of it. He was behind the building of one. I think they built 11 for Bletchley Park. 11 variations of that computer.
Yeah,
Enigma. Is it Enigma?
Yeah, Enigma. The computer was called.
Yeah.
It cracked the Enigma code.
Yeah, but then he worked out. So he worked out some of the code, didn't he? And then he managed.
Yeah, because he identified certain bits, didn't he? That like the data bits that were like the same.
Didn't he?
The problem you had.
That's how you crack. That's how you crack codes.
The problem you had. I mean, there was loads of the huts at Bletchley Park where they were working on it, but the problem you had was the Germans kept modifying the Enigma machines. But sort of what really helped was. Sorry, just on the topic of radio, they employed people to send messages over Morse code of false military movements, and that is how the D-Day landings went sort of undetected, because the Germans were preparing for something else that they'd heard on the radio.
I think that was Sicily, wasn't it? Or they were going to go to Italy, then they went round the edges, didn't they?
Something, yeah.
Lines, weren't it?
But yeah, and then what happened with the Enigma machine is somebody from Polish, I think the Polish intelligence, they met with someone from Britain, or it may have been a double agent for Germany, but they met in a wooded area in Poland, and they gave them an Enigma machine, which we brought back. And
I just realised what that it wasn't radio that done that. It was the guy. They put a dead guy with a load of paperwork and a load of pieces. There was a film called Operation Mincemeat recently.
Yeah,
which wasn't. It was more about the unraveling details about the thing. I found it quite boring, to be honest. I thought it was going to be like you're going to get on the submarine, you're going to watch and release the body. No, none of that. It was all just sort of acting, but that's how they found out about those plans.
It's really interesting, that whole code cracking thing, the crypto thing is.
I need to, Andy. We actually need to go, and Charles, we need to go to Bletchley Park.
Yeah, that's only around the corner from us, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe we've not been. I've always fancied that. So that can be. We'll do that in the new year.
That could be a nice vlog, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really, really good. That actually, it's good to see.
Yeah, the number stations is really a phenomenon, and it's just.
It's got a massive following behind it now. Like with your, videos, your channel is absolutely flying at the moment on that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
doing so well. You've smashing it at the moment.
Yeah,
go and check out his number stations videos and stuff that Lewis's does.
It has gone down. Good. It has gone down well.
It's good. It's really good.
So we're all done for subjects. We do have some for next time, so I'll sort of write these down. So we probably want to talk about encryption next, which is quite a big thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, encryption is interesting.
Yeah. There was a few other things that I did have in my head that I never wrote down, so I will look into that.
I just saw a message there saying, "Has anyone?" This is from Harold Anderson. I think I've seen you before pop up on here. So yeah, hi to you about. Is any one of you on 40 meters? I do a bit of HF. I haven't got a 40-meter antenna up at the moment, but I do like it. I do, go on there from time to time. I actually,
in the comments.
There's a lot of people noticing the rabbit T-shirt as well.
Noticing the rabbit.
Yeah, I think you need to go to...
Man's in the comments, Andy.
Do you reckon that's still copyrighted or that logo?
I don't know. I had to have this made because the real
Yeah,
T-shirt.
I was just gonna say, you might want to start a little business doing those.
No, yeah.
You could do
£15
that as
a pop.
merch. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
You could probably buy the rights pretty cheap for that.
I'll just do it legally. It's fine.
Probably don't need to worry about it. Also, just looking. Lewis, you doing the F1 motorsport radio setup?
Oh, the more I looked into that, the more it's massive. I do know of somebody who works in that field, but yeah, it's too big a too big a project, to take on. It's massive, yeah.
Yeah. Is it digital or not?
There's digital and analog.
It's digital and analog.
Yeah, okay. There's all sorts.
Interesting.
Do you ever do any of your I think I saw one of your videos ages ago about fox hunting or like radio hunting.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing that again?
I always win as well. I'm really good at tracking signals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The old-fashioned way with a yard
does
and
work
map.
for Ofcom, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I've just the Rochdale Amateur Radio Club. They do a fox hunt every year. I've not done it for a couple of years, but it's good fun. Really good fun.
COVID has killed it as well.
Say that again.
Guessing COVID has killed it as well.
Yeah, I think the last one I did was actually just before COVID.
Have we got any questions? Radio questions?
Any radio questions? Yeah, fox hunts are cool. Pretty good.
Pantanger Park would be perfect for a fox hunt, I reckon.
Yeah, it would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
Yeah. People think like it's hard to track radio signals. In VHF and UHF, it's so easy. And what we did when we did the last fox hunt was when we got within sort of a really good range of it, we went and then checked the third harmonic.
Yeah, of course.
So it was a 2-meter fox hunt. We checked the harmonic that's within 70 centimeters, and you can get really, really close. Put an attenuator in line as well, and it's
you can start to really track it down.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, you'd be good at finding weather balloons like radio sons.
Well, that's what you need to get into.
Well, we saw that one the other day, didn't we? I saw that one, and I sent to you, didn't I, on APOS? Yeah. Charles could pick it up. What was really interesting about that is because I was like, right, okay, I can see where it is. Because what's always fascinated me is obviously height. Height is might with radio signals, but there is a point where, we did that. I did some experiments with drones and stuff.
And return, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but it was like in-stop signal, and it was over London, this balloon, but it was at like 12,000 feet apparently. So it was cruising across London.
Like the other side of London, weren't it?
And then I wanted to see what happened to the signal, as it dropped. So as it went sort of 10,000, 9,000, 8,000, no difference really. 7, 6, 5, no difference. Right down, and then all of a sudden, it sort of just vanished, and that must have been the point of like.
Are they on 70? Are they around 70 centimeters? The ones
yeah, it's like 404.
It was 455.
You get a lot of reflection issues within 70 centimeters. It takes a building or a mast or a
crosspath distortion, stuff like that. I suppose, yeah, and not as much as microwaves, but
I don't actually tell you.
There.
You know that day you messaged me. I was already late. I was already late for work, and I'm like, Andy's messaging me to get something on there. Like, I've got to get this going. Then, like, I had to get all my radio out from that cupboard in there. I had to get I just got rubber ducky out, and you were like, "Yeah, you'll get that."
Have it ready to go on charge in a desk charger at all times, Charles.
If you look at Ray's Radio Workshop down in Worthing, he did a couple of videos on radio songs the other week, and there's a couple of guys down there that track them. And if you find one, you can keep it as well.
Yeah. There was on the APRS map. There was someone. It had a call sign and then Chase next to it. I think that might have been. It looked like it was heading towards the radio sign. So maybe I could have got there in 20 minutes as well, and he was right on the other side of Kent. So it would have been quite funny. But I thought, no, I'll let him have it.
Sure? Are you sure he wasn't doing an episode of Benny Hill?
It might have been his weather balloon that he launched.
You should have done. You should find one, Andy, and do a teardown of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be quite cool actually.
Yeah, because it just says on them, if you find it, just dispose of it responsibly.
As in put it in the cupboard and take
Which
it apart.
so you can have it, can't you? Send it back up.
Yeah. They've got a battery that lasts like a limited amount of time. I actually bought a radio sign once from eBay. They were selling them. It wasn't very expensive. No weather balloon, obviously, but it was just the electronics bit, because it was around 2000 when GPSs were about, but they were quite expensive. So I just thought, I could get a GPS thing and try and connect to it by serial, or just try and find a way of like exporting the GPS information out of it. But it was above my skill.
Andy, apparently there's a fox hunt every weekend in Watford.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You need to get in on that.
Yeah, I am gonna put my email. I'm gonna put one of my emails in the chat to see if you can send me some more details. So Andrew, if you could send me some details to this email, that would be great.
Charles, you need to build a tape measure Yagi for VHF and go.
Andy did build me something out of an old doorbell. What was that? It was like for 70 centimeters, wasn't it?
Doorbell. It was
like a doorbell, like it's.
It was just a dipole. It was just a dipole with a little chock block in the middle, because he was. I don't know. I've got an X50 you can have, Charles. You just need to get your license now.
Yeah, I did email. I don't know if anyone from Essex Ham's on here. I did put the form in, but I never heard back.
I'll give them another shout. They've got a Discord as well. Did you?
Yeah,
have you joined that?
I'm on said Discord.
Yeah. So that's
Andrew,
good.
I will follow you. I definitely want to hear some. I'll try and send you a message on YouTube. We do want to hear more about that. Yeah, Andrew Lofthouse.
Yeah, I've seen him on the channel. Comments in the comments.
Yeah.
I always remember names. What are you saying?
I always remember names. Like a threat? Is that a veiled threat?
Where's the cat? You're not stroking the cat.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Your some of the comments you've been getting. It's a joke, isn't it?
Yeah. I get some
really abusive, or
not really abusive. I just get a lot of stupid comments.
Fools,
I get hundreds of comments a day, and you probably get one that's just.
Yeah.
I had a guy today. I did a video about that TV transposer at Old Trafford.
Oh yeah.
And it's
not.
That's what it was. And some.
It's not. No, it's not.
It's a mobile phone repeater. No, it isn't. And I sent in the link with all the specs to it, and he argued the toss with me. I said, I'm not going to argue with you.
Think of the YouTube comments if everyone had to have a sanity check before they commented.
Yeah.
How much of a better place
I don't know where half of them come from.
If you just put a capture code on every time you went to comment, you'd lose them. They'd be gone. It should just do that, shouldn't they? Just confirm. Do you really want to send this? No, really? Do you really want to send this?
I got one guy the other day call me the video where me and you were testing the Motorola DTRs, and you were in more of a built up area. I was in an open area, and he basically said, I did my test in an area that was perfect for long range communications. What a useless CUNT you really are. I was like, but they would never say it to your face, so.
I don't know what that word. I don't know what that word means. Never heard that word in my life.
It's just no need for it, is there? Thing is, you would have had to have gone through the filtered comments, so you probably, because that probably would have got filtered straight out, wouldn't it?
That went straight onto the channel.
Did it? That's not
good.
Got young people watching.
Impressionable. More questions? Any questions, people? Everyone's picking up on my basic test. I think it is. I think we should speak to the owner of YouTube.
We need to meet up with Ben from Radiosification as well, if he's still on at some point, and do some stuff with him.
Yeah, definitely.
He can't be
That'd be
far
cool.
from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think? Where is he? It'd be quite good. There's a lot to see. There's a lot still to see. Actually, we need to go to SMB, the Secret Nuclear Bunker as well. We didn't get to do that.
Calfton Hatch.
Yeah, that's not too far away either, is it?
No, we were going to do that last time, weren't we? But we went to Duxford instead and went up in a plane.
I feel like Duxford is better than the Secret Nuclear Bunker.
Yeah, we got there. We were like, we sort of like asking Helen as if she was our minders. Can we please go in?
Yeah. Oh, it's good. Did you have 2 glasses of orange on the ready to go? Like just
Yeah.
Love it.
Of all the questions that you get, I've got 2 beers waiting for me here.
Oh, lovely. I've drunk my Sumatran blend double espresso at 9 o'clock.
Espresso at this time of night.
No, he's going to be. I feel sorry for poor Helen later tonight.
Yeah.
He's going to be up all night.
Michael says, at my hometown, there's a TV translator on the top of a water tower. I love water towers.
Coming to that, Andy, did you notice the aerials around your sort of, if you go down to Campfield, have you noticed they're a bit higher because of the hill next to us?
Which ones?
Campfield's near the Esso.
Where's your nearest TV transmitter or relay?
It's not Ali Pali.
No.
It used to be. It would have been back in the day.
Use Alexandra Palace when there.
There's got to be something near. There's got to be something nearer to you. I can't remember seeing anything. Is Bunting for is a television? Is it or is it?
No, that Barkway one. No, that isn't.
TV transmitter.
That isn't. I don't know actually. That's quite
I'm
a
just
good
looking
question.
at this now.
Oh,
There's one in the Hartford apparently.
The digital TV, the DABs are like there, aren't they?
Oh, they're on Epping Forest.
Oh,
Yeah.
Andy.
Those ones. That signal is just like blisteringly strong. Like Hack RF can decode DAB with like no aerial.
I'll tell you what we did, Andy, which we didn't do enough on really, is when we went to Brookman Park.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we should have done some
station. I should have done more with that.
Andy, it's the Benjo Water Tower, our closest one.
Oh yeah.
So I've got pictures. I'm gonna
television.
Yeah,
not for television.
I've just googled it, and I'll show you actually.
That's not for TV.
Yeah, it is. So I've just googled it.
Is it a relay or a main? It's not a main transmitter, is it? Surely.
Hold on. I think it's probably a relay. Google's given me this, but obviously that's there. It's given me a garden.
It's not showing up at the moment. Anything you put on there.
You'll need to click on it.
There
you go. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So
free
view.
Light.
Preview. Oh, right.
So yeah, obviously it's going to be, but I've got pictures of that somewhere.
Right.
That transmitter. If you give me 2 seconds.
Okay. What is that?
Somebody's Billy No Mate said Barkway Towers have no TV relays. That was Ministry of Defence, wasn't it? When we went up there, Andy, in that thunderstorm.
Right.
When the thunderstorm up at Bunting.
Yeah. That's what's that? That's some sort of. I thought that was a military thing or something like that.
Yeah, it was a RAF, wasn't it, at one time? But it's decommissioned now.
That wasn't coming out on the actual live for some reason. That I think it was just a black screen.
It did. I just saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, someone said they couldn't see it. Anyway.
There wasn't much.
So that is a TV. It's fascinating when you look around, isn't it?
See, well, you're a bit. The terrain around you is a lot flatter, but where I am, around Manchester, there's so many relays and transmitter sites. It's
just
ridiculous.
To cover that area, isn't it?
There's hundreds, to cover shadows and hills and.
Well, this is the problem with 5G as well, isn't it? Because obviously that's like the millimeter wave and stuff, and they need to have way more kind of points because it just hasn't got any penetration, has it? So like you're going to see so much more infrastructure popping up, less cell towers, I suppose.
This is why the police went back and said that it wasn't ready to handle an emergency surface network.
No.
But they're building hundreds and hundreds of masts to try and cover.
The thing is, they want on one hand, like they want, obviously they want broadband, don't they? They want broadband capability, which is what, because Tetra does an amazing job. It doesn't it? I mean, it covers like, it's obviously going to be holes in there, like in the coverage area, but it does a really good job, and it's because it's on a frequency that's like, you know, pretty good for getting long distances.
Yeah.
But you know, they're like, oh, they obviously want broadband. They want to be able to send pictures and data, and like, you know, want to have handsets that are more like phones and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just not ready, is it? Like, this places where I go and you just don't get any signal. So what?
So
how you
what?
do that?
What the police actually, what the Home Office actually did, they went back and said, well, EE isn't ready, and they bought something like, it was, I'm sure they bought something like 4,000 Supura Tetra airwave sets to sort of fill the gap, because they weren't replacing them as they broke, because they were expecting this migration. But so they bought thousands of Supura handsets to
sort of, you know, fill the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what will happen, you know, long term for that. Because Tetra is capable of doing a lot more than it does if it's built into
I think it'll be a while before the switch over to cellular, with the way it's gone. Anyway, they did a lot of testing. I don't know how much I can say, but they did a lot of testing across two forces in England, and they had dedicated teams testing coverage on a daily basis, and it just didn't
match up. Yeah, it's not good. I mean, 5G, obviously latency is supposed to be better, but I don't know.
It's not. It's never gonna be perfect, is it?
No. I mean, this is a problem. The more things that are on it, and what's interesting is LoRa's quite interesting as well. Like that somebody said, saw a comment on Discord this morning. Someone's experimenting with LoRa on UHF, and they were saying that they literally put it by the side of their sofa, set up a LoRa net mesh thing, and then went a mile away, and it was still receiving and transferring data on 70 SEMS, which you just wouldn't happen voice, you know, on a voice connection. But I think because of the way
they made two walkie-talkies that transmit to each other on LoRa.
Yeah. It's
we want to set up. Me and Andy want to set up some data, don't we? At some point, like data link.
I mean, you know, what I've been messing around with at the moment, the packet stuff is just unreal.
Yeah, we need to do some of that. Clever. I've got the SDR, haven't I?
You should just watch. Well, you could actually decode all the messages. You'll see all of the stuff that's going on, because it's not encrypted. Yeah, it's open. I was getting
it on my Bofang, wasn't I? Like,
yeah, you'll pick up me on your Bofang, because it's only across the thing. I'm doing like 35-mile cross links to like stations, you know, across the other side of London and stuff. But I caused havoc on there the other day because I'm using a bit of beta software, and it's kind of it hasn't been touched for years and years. The guy that makes it, the guy that writes it, is really big in the packet radio world, and he has been tweaking this bit of software. But I had a situation yesterday where I left it on, and I was sitting here, and it was anyone that was trying to connect to anything, my station was going, yeah, I'm here, and it was like connecting to that as well. So it caused absolute havoc on 1449375. And I was getting all these messages, people saying, you need to turn that off. Is that going
to be another call from Ofcom by the sounds of it?
No, well, it's nature funny. Of the hobby, isn't it?
It's funny you mention Ofcom. A guy here said, I remember the DTI knocked on my door in the 80s because I was playing cordless phones on 1.7 megs. I picked up on my FRG7 to my mate on the CB. Luckily, I had a license that year. That's funny.
Did they still do that?
What?
Like turn up at your house and start?
Oh yeah.
Like, do they turn up in like black, like big SUVs and take you away, put you in a restraint jacket?
No, they turn up in like
just a firm back of the hand knock on the door.
In a 2005 Vauxhall Zafira.
Right.
or Insignia was that, with the magman slightly off centre.
Yeah. I'll be coming for you.
Be coming for you.
Yeah, he's got the file.
Andy,
Yeah.
got all the evidence here. Don't forget.
Oh, dear. It's a good
The
job.
Andy Kirby evidence folder.
It's a good job this is out of focus, these frequencies on these radios.
I did see. Actually, before we started, I did see you with a bit of gaffer tape actually covering up the screens.
Yeah.
Just turn them off.
Shall we give our 73 these guys? Start rounding this up.
Yeah. It's been a good one.
Yeah.
I think definitely
Ben,
was
make
good.
sure you do get into contact with one of these two, or me if you want to. But I'm not very well known on the internet.
I'm sure I've got Ben. Ben, if you're still watching, drop me a message on Facebook. We've not spoken for a while. But yeah, it'd be good. It would be good to catch up with Ben. He's a top guy.
He did comment.
He's got some DTRs as well, Andy.
Oh, really?
Ben's got some DTRs. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I reckon we should do some good more stuff with those. We need to do some
Yeah,
long range.
I'm sure I've got Ben on Facebook. I'm sure I've spoken to him. So Ben, if you're still watching, drop me a message.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good stuff,
Right,
guys.
Yeah,
Right.
what a great night, eh?
Yeah. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to wrap this one up, and you want to come back next week, Lewis? You seem to be dragging the crowds in.
Paul said Ofcom enforcement pretty much gone. It hasn't. Trust me, it hasn't. Take that from experience for both me and Andy. It's not. It hasn't gone.
It's just phone calls these days.
No, they turn up. They do.
I was talking about our previous experience.
Yeah. Brushing.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Right, guys. Nice to have you all on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Catch you later, guys.
Speak to your agents.
Right. See you later, guys.
Bye.